see this. It's something that'll change the world and human life as we know it.
He knows. He's seen the light.
When Monty talks, it's painful.
Monty, you have been so instrumental in kind of pointing me in the right direction.
It was about looking at your character defects in spirituality.
It's the integration of clinical practices with the 12 steps.
It's an absolute pleasure. He certainly knows a lot of people. He's got a lot of energy, and sometimes when you don't have so much energy, he picks you up and carries you.
Having the Monty man there certainly helps.
This is one of the places that is about the business of the solution.
The views expressed on this special broadcast of the Take 12 radio show do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting or its affiliates. KHLT is not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
Now here's that guy who's getting less popular minute by minute, your host, the Multi-Man.
Well, welcome aboard, all you scallywags and scallywaggles out there. Welcome aboard the Good Ship Recovery here at Take12Radio.com on your internet dial. It's good to have you with us today. Hey, listen, you may be very surprised with some of the numbers and statistics we're going to share with you today. More than 170,000 adults over 65 years of age struggle with alcohol abuse, according to the Office of Alcohol and Substance Abuse. And as the baby boomer generation ages, these numbers are growing, my friends. The National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism reports that problems stemming from alcohol consumption, including interactions of alcohol with prescribed and over-the-counter drugs, far outnumber any other substance abuse problem among older adults. Now, listen, I know what you're thinking, right? You're thinking, well, Grandpa, can't really be, a drug addict, right? I mean, he's Grandpa. And Grandma can't be dealing with addiction. She's Grandma. Man, she makes my cookies, and, she makes me feel better when Mom and Dad are being jerks. And all that kind of thing, and or some of you are saying, "Well, I know my kids are struggling with stuff, but my parents, my neighbor next door, who I see him out watering the yard every day. I mean, no, that can't be the case, right? Well, you could be very, very wrong. In fact, you probably are. The fact is, my friends, we don't know what's going on next door most of the time. That's a sad issue. Well, we're going to educate you today a little bit on geriatric addiction and recovery. This is huge. It's huge. Well, my guest this week is Steve Wollman. He's a New Yorker from the Bronx. Steve used to work in the entertainment industry. In 1988, he fell on ice and broke his back. I can't even imagine. From this injury, he had to walk away from his career and was forced to go on disability for nearly 10 years. He became addicted to prescription drugs, and at the peak of his addiction, he was taking close to 2,000 pills a month. He finally got the help he needed and got clean through hard work and Narcotics Anonymous. Well, Steve went back to graduate school and got 2 master's degrees, one in mental health counseling and one in substance abuse counseling and education. Steve Wollman has been working in this field now for nearly 15 years. Steve says, I decided to devote my life to helping other addicts. I worked mostly in Florida and worked in with adolescents for nearly 6 years. I moved back to New York to be near my family. I took this job working with Geriatric because it was a challenge, and I'll bet it was. Steve, welcome to Take 12 Radio.
Thanks, Monty. Thanks for having me on your show.
Absolutely. Well, when I first got your email, and I think we communicated on Facebook, and I read this article, and I did some research on this thing. I got to tell you, I've been doing this for almost 30 years. This recovery deal, I had no idea the staggering numbers that we're talking about when dealing with geriatric addiction and recovery. Man, what a challenge for you.
Yeah, it is a challenge. I mean, I had absolutely no idea that this many adults, especially elder adults, are addicted to anything. You know, who would want to think that grandpa is using, or grandma is using, or a middle-aged man thinks his mother is using? It's a very scary thought. And the problem is that nobody really ever wants to deal with this issue. You know, it's called an invisible epidemic. It's been going on around us for the longest time, and nobody's really ever taken notice. And now, because the baby boomers are starting to retire, we're a very large portion of the population, and baby boomers were exposed to drugs more than any other generation. And now that we're getting to retire, I think a lot of us want to get clean. So I think we're seeing a lot of that coming out due to the baby boomers.
You know, we talk a lot in this show about breaking stigma. You know, we know that addiction is the #1 health crisis in our nation. Recovery from it gets the least amount of attention because of stigma, and we want to be part of that solution. How stigmatized is the 65-year-old guy or gal who somebody finds out has got a problem with oxycodone or OxyContin, for instance?
Well, I have a lot of clients now that I deal with here at the Jewish Home Life Care in the Bronx, and a lot of the clients that I have don't even think there's a problem until we bring it to their attention. When we bring it to their attention, they're surprised because their doctor prescribed the medication for them. And because the doctor prescribes the medication, a lot of elderly people think that they're not addicted. And there's been a lot of research done, and a lot of people who are prescribed medication after surgery, they're still taking that medication 3 years later.
You bet.
And that shouldn't be going on.
Why is that? Why aren't general practitioners weaning their people off this garbage?
Well, they say, the doctors say that they're embarrassed about talking to an elderly person about this because they don't know how to approach it. And I really think that doctors need to start learning how to approach their elderly clients so they can talk to them and really find out what's really going on with the medication that they're taking. You know, elderly people, if you don't tell them don't mix alcohol and they drink, you know, every day and they're taking medication, they don't know that it's going to cause a problem.
Right.
You know, and a lot of times when they slip and fall, it's not because they slip and fall because they're old. They slipped and fell because they were drunk. And that they have to go into the hospital and get fixed.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. That's just, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And so many folks in this age group are going untreated because nobody's talking about it. I'm so glad you're on the show. I just appreciate it so much. Talk to us a little bit about Jewish Home Life Care.
Absolutely. I came back to New York. I got this job at Jewish Home Life Care, and it was advertised for a director of Geriatric Substance Abuse Program. And when I took the job, you know, the whole purpose of this job was to help the elderly in our community because we recognized it here as an ongoing problem. And what we wanted to do was to try to stop having elderly people go back into the emergency rooms over and over again. Because, you know, a lot of people, they slip, they fall. It might be because of alcohol, and they're back in the emergency room. If the alcohol problem or the drug problem isn't treated, the same thing is going to happen over and over again. So what we've done is we put together a program that helps not so much the addicted person, the elderly person who's high functioning. We deal with post-acute care clients and addiction. Mm-hmm. In other words, not only are we dealing with the medical rehabilitation, we're dealing with a recovery, substance abuse rehabilitation.
Right. And so people understand a person doesn't have to come from a Jewish heritage to benefit from your services, true?
Oh, absolutely not. We are a very diverse community here in the Bronx, and we're open to anybody that needs our services.
Yeah, yeah.
And most of the clients that we see in our program have been through major operations and are getting physical therapy and other rehabilitation. Some of our clients have had strokes and are going through rehabilitation. And if there happens to be a substance abuse problem, that isn't identified, we're going to wind up identifying it because we screen everybody when they come into the program of rehabilitation here.
Right. You guys have a tremendous amount of services that you provide. You have social workers, there's physicians and nurses on staff, occupational therapy, mental health and addiction professionals. Let's talk about mental illness for a minute. Is there a lot of co-occurring mental health issues going on here?
Well, yeah, a lot of times co-occurring issues go on mostly with substance abuse problems. There's always usually an underlying mental health problem. That's why when our clients come in, we get them a psych evaluation, and they also, if need be, they get a psychiatric evaluation, so we can identify what the mental health problem is and treat it while they're here.
Okay. Do some of these folks plug into a support system like a 12-step fellowship or something like that?
Well, one of the things that we're doing here in our program is we're having AA come to our facility.
Oh, wonderful.
Right. The program here is very new, so we haven't gotten AA people in yet, but we've already met with the AA community, and they are going to come in here as soon as we ask them to. And I think it's going to be a wonderful way for our clients to get hooked up in the program while they're here in the home, and let them see what recovery is and what they can as they go through the program here. When they leave, they'll be already hooked up in AA and can start going to meetings, which would really be a great thing for them.
What has been your experience with the response from the client themselves in perhaps accepting the fact that they're an addict?
Well, I think like anybody at any stage of addiction, you're going to always have a lot of resistance. There are a lot of our patients are very resistant.
Yeah.
They do not want to, they don't think there's a problem, and they don't want to work on it even after you've told them there's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, Grandpa can be stubborn.
And then a lot of people come in here, they know they have a problem, and then when you want to treat the problem, they don't want to deal with it at all.
Sure. Because we know that the substance comes with its own set of issues, but the problem many times goes much deeper than that. So I can just imagine what your day is like sometimes, right?
Well, it's a very, very busy day. I mean, I have to screen all the clients that come into the home. I do screenings on a lot of the clients that have already been accepted into the program to find out how serious their addiction problems are.
Right.
Then I have to do I get their care plans created for them, and then I do individual therapy, and then we're going to be doing group therapy, and it goes on and on all day long. It's a never-ending cycle here. Yeah,
you bet. Well, listen, Steve, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about how family members respond to the members of their family and to you and to the services that are provided at Jewish Home. And by the way, folks, the website that you want to visit that we're talking about here is jewishhome.com. You can also click on the link on our Fridays page while this show is up all week. So don't go away. More with my guest, Stephen Wollman, when we come back. This is a fascinating topic, and it is vital that we get the word out about this thing because a lot of people are falling through the cracks. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Free by the Sea is a drug and alcohol recovery center located in beautiful Ocean Park, Washington. This facility is amazingly gorgeous, but what's even more amazing is the integrity of the staff and the treatment provided for those wishing to recover from narcotic and alcohol addiction. The folks at Free by the Sea have a passion for presenting the solution to addiction for you or your loved one. To speak with an admission specialist, visit freebythesea.com or call toll-free 800-272-9199. This place is simply amazing.
Hey there, this is the Monty Man from Take 12 Recovery Radio. You know, many of us have attended all sorts of addiction symposiums and treatment conventions, and so much of the time we walk away from these events feeling like we've been preaching to the choir just one more time. may I suggest a different kind of substance abuse and addiction treatment event. The Evolution of Addiction Treatment Conference, February 5th through the 8th, 2015, at the Westin Los Angeles Airport Hotel and Convention Center. The current field of substance abuse and addiction treatment has been evolving for almost 8 decades now, and during this time we have seen many important developments as well as many failed experiments. It seems time to step back and conduct a professional inventory of where we have been, where we are now, and where we are heading. Well, this conference will provide a forum that encourages professional dialogues of controversial issues, showcases innovative and creative treatment approaches, and offers an overview of the field and its future. For more information, visit www.theevolutionofaddictiontreatment.com. Join me and many of my guests as we attend the Evolution of Addiction Treatment Conference, February 5th through the 8th, at the Westin Los Angeles Airport Hotel and Convention Center, 2015.
Old man, look at my life. I'm a lot like you were. Old man, look at my life. I'm a lot like you were.
Welcome back. Steve Wollman from JewishHome.org is the website that you want to visit. I encourage you, please visit this website. It is so vital. Jewish Home Life Care. We're talking about geriatric substance abuse and recovery. We can talk about the problem all day, but we also want to talk about the solution. And there is a solution, right, Steve?
Yes, there is.
And okay, so somebody comes to you and says, I think Grandma's drinking a little too much. What do you say to him? What's the process?
Well, first of all, getting clean in any age group is the same procedure. We do the same thing. The things that we do differently with elderly people is our approach. The approach is completely different. It has to come from a very empathic, loving direction. There's no confrontation involved. A lot of times people use confrontation in treatment, and although it might work in a different age range, and I question that also.
Me too.
It really works. It doesn't work well with elderly people. You really have to be very sensitive to them, to their gender also, and not just only their gender, their background, their cultural background. You got to pay attention to all these things. And one of the most important things when you're dealing with the elderly, like I do here, is I get the family involved whenever I can. Families need to be involved in anybody's addiction issues, but especially when you're dealing with the senior citizen. They need the support. They need to know that they're not doing anything wrong, that it's okay, that they're an alcoholic or an addict, but it's going to be okay. Once you're able to identify that and they realize it and they got the support from the family, it makes it that much easier for them to buy into treatment. Now, you've also got to understand also there's two different kinds of elderly addiction. There's early onset and there's late onset. And it's really important to understand what that means. Early onset means that you started using probably as a teenager and never stopped. Late onset is a person that usually starts over the age of 55. It could be because they lost a loved one, they're retired, the children moved out of the house, there's been a life-changing event, and they start drinking. Believe it or not, that group of people are much easier to treat than the early onset crowd, because the early onset crowd is so embedded in their addiction, it's just as difficult as any other addiction to treat. But when you're dealing with someone who's late onset, you're able to really look at them and make them aware and find some self-awareness as to what's going on, because, number one, they've never been in treatment before. They probably weren't in jail. They didn't lose their job. And they'll be ready to deal with it when they finally realize they have a problem. When you're dealing with someone who's been addicted or alcoholic for 30 or 40 years, they don't want to hear that they're doing anything wrong, and they'll make every excuse to think that everything they're doing is right, and then what they're doing isn't affecting anything. But meanwhile, they, when they're elderly, like when they come into the Jewish home, what happens? They have heart problems, they've fallen down, they've had strokes, they've had ulcers in their stomach, esophagus. I mean, it's a whole gamut of illnesses that go along with elderly people. And not just that, a lot of these elderly people will mix alcohol with their prescription drugs.
Sure.
And that's deadly. That is deadly. That's an accident in the making. You just can't do that. You have to make your doctor aware if you drink before he gives you narcotic medication. Are you surprised at how many people are actually still functioning after years of abuse? I've seen a lot of the clients that come here and how they are, and believe me, some of them, still seem to be put together rather well, but then there are other ones that you can really see the ravages of alcoholism addiction. The way they look, their physical appearance, the way they act, they have that addictive look and that addictive talk, the way they speak to you. They try to manipulate. I mean, it hasn't gone away. I mean, that's what the person has when they're addicted for a very long period of time. And, I just found that when you're dealing with later onset addiction, you really can get to the person a lot faster.
Yeah. You said something here just a second ago that is, gosh, it is so important. You talked about the approach, and you said you get, even with younger folks, you kind of question that too. This hardcore, in your face stuff. One of the things that concerns me about today's 12-step support meetings is this mentality with some people, not all, but with some people, that it's imperative that we tell the newcomer, no matter what age, shut up, sit down, take the cotton out of your ears and stick it in your mouth. You got nothing to say, kind of mentality. And I don't know about you, but when I came into recovery, you could crush me with a word, man.
Well, you know what? I think you're right about that. I think if an elderly person goes to an outside meeting for the first time and whoever is there treats it that way, I mean, the elderly person is going to feel very intimidated by that. And I think anybody would feel intimidated by that, and they just might shut down and not want to come back.
Yeah, that's crazy stuff. Because in reading the chapter Working with Others in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, there's nowhere in there that says that we should make the approach in any other way other than with compassion and understanding.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. So when working with the family members, have you found that many times the family members perhaps need to do as much work or not more?
Well, there's a saying when someone's in treatment, they're usually the wrong person in treatment. It's usually the family that needs to be in treatment.
Yeah.
Most families I find are scared.
Yeah, sure.
They're scared about what it's doing to their loved one. I find that when they feel more comfortable that there's a solution to the problem and their loved one wants the help, you can almost see a sigh of relief come over their face. Like, okay, they're going to work on it. We don't have to worry anymore.
Right.
Because, let's face it, if your father or grandfather were going out and getting high or drinking, you would be scared to death for that person, especially if they're over 70 years old.
Yeah, and they're still driving.
And they're still driving, absolutely. And they're not thinking that it's wrong to drive because they've been doing it for years.
Oh my gosh, Steve! I just flashed on my own father. He's not with us any longer, bless his heart. But he, this guy, he was the city manager of a town in California for 20 years. Very high functioning, president of Rotary Club. He was the council president for the Boy Scouts of America. I mean, the guy was just Mr. Motivated and, Mr. Business and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And his driving was there towards the end. That was, his major focus of independence.
Absolutely.
You know, and he had peripheral T-cell lymphoma, and so he was on pain management with opiate-based pain medications, and he was driving around.
Wow.
And I'm like, Dad, you can't be doing that. And we had to step in, and it was heartbreaking for him to give that up.
It is heartbreaking when something like that happens. Absolutely.
Yeah. So even more reason why we need to be compassionate. Okay, let's take our last break, and when we come back, let's talk a little bit about relapse and the elderly person. Folks, don't go away. More with Steve Wollman, Jewish Home Life Care. Visit the website, jewishhome.org. You don't want to miss the rest of the show because this is such vital stuff. And I encourage you, you know that you have our permission to download the shows, to make copies of the shows, to play them for people. You know, you may just be saving somebody's life by sharing this broadcast with somebody. We'll be right back.
As men and women who have recovered from utterly hopeless states of addiction ourselves, we know all too well what it's like to battle addiction daily. We are Origins Recovery Centers. Here at Origins, we have taken that which we have learned along the way, excised anything unhelpful and unnecessary, infused it with the latest medical research and innovative therapeutic methods, and created what we know to be the absolute gold standard in substance abuse treatment. And Origins provides the most preeminent aftercare and relapse prevention program available in the United States. For a free confidential clinical assessment, call toll-free 888-843-8935. That's 888-843-8935. Origins, delivering real solutions for real families.
Hey there, it's Monty Meyer from Take 12 Recovery Radio. Well, I'd like to take this opportunity to let you know about a brand new service being provided to those of you in the Willamette Valley and surrounding areas of Oregon. It's the ARS program, Addiction Recovery Services, being made available Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Oak Creek Christian Center, located at 5775 Columbus Street Southeast in Albany, Oregon. If you or a loved one are living with addiction issues such as chemical dependency, alcoholism, opiate addiction, pornography, sexual addiction, eating disorders, or even codependency issues, we are here to help you. Here at ours, we have resources available that you may not be aware of that can help you or your loved one recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. We offer experience, strength, and hope, as we have been there ourselves, and feel it imperative to assist you in obtaining the help you need to begin to experience the life you were meant to and created to enjoy. Well, perhaps you are not personally afflicted by any form of addiction, but you know and love someone who is. You've tried everything and feel at a loss as to what to do next to help. May I encourage you to pick up the phone today and call us here at 541-926-7981. You can call Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. to schedule an appointment with our Addiction Resource and Support Department. You don't have to belong to a church or even believe in God to take the advantage of our services. All you need is a willingness to seek help. That number again, 541-926-7981. That's 541-926-7981 to schedule an appointment. We look forward to hearing from you, and remember, you don't have to go through this alone.
Old friends, winter companions, the old men, lost in their overcoats, waiting for the sunset.
Steve Wollman's my guest from Jewish Home Life Care. JewishHome.org is the website. Please visit it, make a note of it. Steve, okay, so we know that relapse isn't a part of recovery until it happens, but when it happens, it can be, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, What about the self-esteem issues an elderly person goes through when they relapse, if they've got some time under their belt? Is that different than somebody who's perhaps younger? Is it harder for them to bounce back?
Well, I think the thing about with an elderly person relapsing, I think what happens to them mostly, I think they're dealing with a lot of shame.
Yeah.
I think the shame part of it is a big deal, that they've actually gone back to the way they were before, and they've been working so hard, staying, clean and sober, and to them I just think it's very shameful more than anything else. And sometimes shame can be so powerful, it's very hard to get past that.
Yeah, you bet. I know in my own life, years ago when I was going through, I was the 30-day wonder for several years in a row there, and it was shame that kept me from coming home.
Oh my!
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
It was very, very powerful. Are some of these elderly folks that you work with? Do you find that some of them have been abused and neglected?
Well, if they have, I have to report it. I'm a mandated reporter, but
you bet.
I haven't seen that or heard that at all since I've been working here at all from any of the elderly people. I mean, I'm sure it does exist, but I haven't recognized it as a problem by any one of my patients here.
Well, I'm going to say something now that is going to be kind of heavy duty, and I'm saying this to my listeners. If you are like me, and before this show you were unaware of this issue being so huge, and now you are aware of it, if you do nothing, if you sit back and don't talk about this and share with other people, that's a form of neglect. And I've got to tell you, you can be part of the solution. Steve, how can people engage with Jewish Home Life Care? How can they help? Perhaps donate or support. What can some of my listeners do?
Well, first of all, they can go onto the website and find out how that could be done by going on the website and looking and finding out the correct number and where to call and make any kind of donations that they like. We do take donations. I mean, we always take clothing. We take all kinds of items that I give for the elderly people.
Great. And so I want people to have that opportunity to do that. Folks, and if you'd like to, you can email me here at take12radio@comcast.net. I would be more than glad to pass this on to Steve, or you can go to jewishhome.org as well.
We are the first nursing home in any kind of facility that's dealing with this issue anywhere. This issue is not only was it pushed under the rug by families, it was pushed under rugs by other hospitals, other people who were doing services for the elderly. Nobody wants to talk about it. They don't know what to do with it. But you do know what to do with it. You can get the help if you want it.
Well, the Jewish Home Geriatric Substance Abuse Recovery Program is you guys are in New York. And
correct.
Do you have connections with other institutions that help the elderly, that perhaps across the nation?
Well, yes. I deal with mostly my resources that I deal with here in New York, because I got to tell you, one of the most important things about seeing that their recovery goes smoothly is the discharge plan that we give them. And what I've done is I partnered with a lot of resources outside of Jewish Home, so I have referrals to make for a lot of my clients. For instance, Odyssey House. Odyssey House is one of the oldest drug facilities in New York City. They're the only facility that has an elder recovery program. An inpatient elder program, meaning that you don't have to have a problem like one of my clients have, but you're a higher functioning adult and you're an elder, you have a program you can go to, the only one that's doing it. So if I have a client that's leaving my care and they need to be in an inpatient program, that's where I would send them.
Yeah, very good.
We have Arms Acres. That's another facility that I partnered with, and Jacoby Medical Center here. Right now, I have one client that's getting ready to do outpatient therapy with Jacoby. I mean, we pair the client up with the best match for their problems and their addiction, and also, of course, where they live.
Yeah.
Okay, now some folks are going to need to stay on certain medications, right?
Right. Well, that's a challenge. That's a challenge in itself, and I'll tell you why. We have a lot of elderly patients here who are here for rehabilitation who've just come back from surgeries, and a lot of them are on pain medications.
Right.
You know, and anybody would say, well, how can they be in recovery if they're on pain medication? It's not about the act of taking the medication, how they're taking it, and how they're going to take it when they leave, if they still need to be on it, and having somebody else watching how they're taking it as well.
Yeah.
Someone that can assist them when they get home. Because I got to tell you, you're trying to help people who are on, or on opiates, painkillers. You're going to be treating somebody who's still taking painkillers.
You bet.
But you got to just let them know that it's medication and it's good for what they're taking. But eventually they're going to have to cut down and get off of it so they can really rehabilitate without any drugs in their system. So you got to be really careful with that because it is a big deal, the medications.
Yeah, especially in our recovery support meetings. A lot of times people, well-meaning people, will spout off something that you're not really, clean and sober or whatever if you're taking pain meds and that kind of thing. And I just wish people would leave that alone. You're not a professional. You don't know what's going on. This thing is about being restored to sanity, not sobriety. There's a lot of people that are sober that don't have a substance in their body and they're miserable because they haven't experienced being restored to sanity or true recovery. So when people spout off, they're still taking pain meds, they're not in recovery, I'm like, maybe you better leave your opinion to yourself because you don't know what's going on here. I know. Go ahead.
I know the good news about that is that a lot of the facilities that I've partnered with are very aware that elderly people need to be on medication, and all of them are willing to work with them while they're on the medication. And if they have to, they'll start taking them off the medication gradually by, with the medical detox that they'll do while they're going to treatment.
Yeah. Are things, one of the things that is disturbing to me is that here we are in, the year 2015, and we're still administering some very, very dirty drugs for pain management in some circles. And it seems to me that we could do better. I mean, do you think it's getting better as far as like holistic stuff and all natural pain medication and that kind of thing?
Well, I think there's more things available to people to take other than, opiate medication. But I think what's important that's happening with opiate medication is I lived in Florida for 20 years, and they had the biggest problem of opiate medication in the country. 80% of the prescriptions for OxyContin that were written in this country came from Florida.
Yeah, I've heard that.
85% of the entire country. So what they're doing now is there are very, very strict rules about the medications. There's a lot of agencies involved. I mean, it has to be recorded in pharmacies, have these lists of people and the names and the computers, and it all checks out with each other to see that, what's going on with it. And when someone is overprescribing medication, they can spot that and deal with it as it happens. So people are not doing it as much anymore because they're getting caught.
Right. Didn't I hear that there was like these little mini strip malls and stuff, that there were pain management clinics and people could go in and say, "Oh, my back hurts," and they just write them a script?
That was part of the thing. That not only would they write them the script, they would give them the pills while they were at the facility because they had them there.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God.
Then what they were doing with it, a lot of these people were actually coming in with fake illnesses. They were buying all these pills, going back to where they lived and selling them.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, it was pretty bad down there.
Oh, wow. That's a trip. There's a and you probably know the name of it. I can't think of the name of it offhand, but there's an act that was passed where if somebody was in need of treatment, that you could commit them.
Oh, that's down in Florida. That's the Baker Act and the Marshman Act.
The Marshman Act. That's the one I'm thinking about. So you don't even have to be a relative to do that, right?
I'm not sure. I don't remember what the specifics are in that because I've never actually dealt with that. Most of the people I've dealt with were Baker acted, but not Marchman acted.
Right. Well, we know that treatment doesn't have to be voluntary to be effective. Most of us didn't walk in because we really wanted to. But do you find that there are some elderly folks that are coming to you guys going, I want help on their own?
There have been. I've had a few clients here that have really knew that they were coming here for substance abuse help, and they really were open to it, and they did very well.
Yeah, excellent. Okay.
But if you remember one thing, it's also about your state of mind. If you really want to get clean, you're going to get clean.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so without mentioning any names, do you have a favorite story of an elderly person that has been in your care?
Right? You mean a story of someone that's with me, that's been with me recently?
Yeah. At any point, that something that you get a kick out of that you like to share with people.
Well, yeah, I had this one guy who, he broke some ribs and came in for rehabilitation for that issue, and he'd been an alcoholic for many, 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 many years. And he kept telling me that he didn't think he had a problem. But every day I go back to see him, he'd have more of a problem than the day before. He kept growing and growing and growing and growing until he finally admitted he really had a serious problem. And just in general, it's a good story because he went and followed the discharge plan. He went out and is going to the outpatient therapy. He hasn't followed up with AA as much as he probably should have, but he's doing really well, and he's really happy he's making this change in his life because he felt he hadn't had a life of his own. It's all been about a friend he was taking care of, and alcohol. That was his life. He had a job also. I don't know how he functioned at the job, but now he's doing okay, and I think he's finally realizing the benefit of not being drunk all the time. Yeah.
Well, and you must experience some wonderful feelings of gratitude, even in your own recovery, right? I mean, this thing is altruistic. We know that. To be doing what you're doing, how rewarding is this?
Well, you know what? I don't look at it to me as it's something. I mean, yes, it is rewarding. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to lie and say that it isn't. It's very rewarding. But you know what? I feel like it's a need that I want to do this. There's a need for me to do this. Someone has to do it, and I feel that I have the right way of dealing with it. I'm very good relationships with people, and I can see it through my clients. How I help them. So I really think I'm doing the right thing, and it makes me feel really good that I'm able to do it. The circumstances of getting here, were they great? No, absolutely not. But now that I'm here, I can't worry about what things used to be. I worry about the way things are right now and what I can do to help improve the situation.
How's your back, man, after breaking your back? How's that?
Well, it's still there. I've had a couple of major back operations, but I can do anything I want. I had a great second back operation that put me back together again. I still suffer from pain, but you know what? That's not the reason why I'm alive anymore.
Right. And so there's a spiritual element to all this, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit.
Well, it's spiritual. I have a direct conscious contact with the God of my understanding that helps me through all these different trials and tribulations that I go through. He shows me how to handle people and how he wants me to deal with other addicts. And I follow that path, and wherever it goes, it goes.
In working with the elderly, do you find that they're open to spiritual principles?
Yes and no. It all depends on the upbringing of the person.
Yeah, you bet.
It varies from person to person.
Right. Well, Steve, congratulations, man, and thank you so much for the work you do. It is so vitally important. Listeners, it's Jewish Home Life Care. The website is jewishhome.org. Steve, any last thoughts for the listeners today?
Well, if you know an elderly person and you're wondering if they might be getting high or they're over excessively drinking, go talk to them and see if you're right and see if you can help. Just by talking with the person and letting them know you understand them just might be what they need to hear. to maybe make them want to stop drinking or to go gain some treatment. Just don't pass the elderly person up as a person that, you know, they don't matter or they're getting old anyway. They're human beings, and their quality of life should be the best it possibly can be at the twilight of their life. Yeah, you bet. Boy, that's very, very well said. Well, Steve, thank you so much for being on the show today and for doing what you do, my friend. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure and an honor. Absolutely. Folks, again, the website, jewishhome.org, Jewish Home Life Care. My guest, Steve Wollman. Please give this website a visit. Give the folks a call. See how you can plug in. This is vitally important that you learn this stuff. Rewind the show. Listen to it again. Burn copies of it. Share it with somebody. You may just be helping to save somebody's life, or at the very least improving their quality of life. Steve, don't hang up. Stay on the line with me. Folks, our email address here is take12radio@comcast.net. If you're listening on a smart device or a tablet, our website is www.take12radio.com. You can use the number 12 or type in the word 12. Doesn't matter. Please check out all of our shows. We have an enormous amount of archives. We're still the world's only recovery radio and positive music talk show broadcasting 24/7 via the internet and terrestrial radio on the Graceful Living Network as well. We are just so proud to be able to say that you guys out there are what makes broadcasting so much fun for me, because you take this stuff and you share it and you give it away. We can't do that all on our own. We need you to do that. So, you know, word of mouth is the best thing, whether it's talking about geriatric substance abuse, whether it's talking about people with codependency issues, whatever it is, you can help break the stigma. You can do that by tuning into take12radio.com right here on your internet dial. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man, along with Steve Wollman, my guest this week, and we're wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye, my friends.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Kitty, 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 kitty.